think there's a responsibility for veteran CEOs to help new CEOs mature into their position, but also to become talent spotters for the future and to help identify those individuals who are going to be the CEOs down the road and help them achieve those positions. I think by doing that, we can make sure that there is, in fact, a sustainable future for our system.
The Board of Trustees professional development? It depends on which role the CEO is in. If the CEO is a college president, that's not their primary role. That role belongs to the Chancellor. However, if the Chancellor asks the President, who may have had experience passing 3 bond measures, to meet and talk with the trustee who really doesn't understand how or why their district needs to do that, then I think that college president steps up. If it's a district level CEO, a chancellor or a superintendent, I think that there are certain ideal characteristics of boards and of trustees that serve on those boards. And I think it's the CEO's responsibility to help the board focus on how well they think they are prepared to carry out the behaviors that are ideal for a strong board and for effective board members, and then direct them, suggest, go with them, take them, invite them to have dialogue and exposure to information and technique that will help them get better. We have a unique thing in the community college system. Trustees, when boards of trustees were established, they were designed to be lay board members, which means they come from every profession out there and are not endemic to and products of working in an educational system. So if you look at it from that perspective, I think that the role of the CEO in helping the board members get the information that they need is immense. But the other really fascinating challenge, I think, for a district level CEO, even in preparing a board agenda item, is that most likely none of the board members have been on the board for the same amount of time. They haven't had common experiences on this situation 5 years ago. So the role of the CEO in educating and helping in the professional development and creating a context is really subtle, because it depends on how you write that board item, how much information you put in and what you refer them to. So it's an ongoing dialogue.
I think the CEO plays a great role in planning for board and trustee professional development. These elected officials come in without a lot of knowledge as to how our system works and what exactly their role is. Even if they came from a K-12 district or a city council, something like that, it's not quite the same as the community college system. So the CEO really needs to take the lead from election night, really, and walk the trustee through the process of gaining the experience they're going to need to be an effective board member.
Well, the CEO is the guide of the board. The board, at least the board that I work with, they are all on the board, but they're really looking for direction from me. A couple of them, maybe all of them, have personal things that they want to see done, but cohesively as a board, there's no one on the board pulling them together. I think the CEO does that. For example, I have an annual retreat that I do with the board in which we develop their goals. But a lot of the work is done prior to that, in which we're talking and putting together, so we don't show up with a blank page. I feel like the board might just be all over the place because they need some guidance. And throwing out ideas and giving them things to think about, and so you come together at that retreat with some things already formulated, and then let them debate them and kind of see where they go with them. I've always used an outside source to sort of facilitate that meeting, and as we develop their goals and settle on them. And then I came up with an idea that had not been formally applied at my institution, was to actually have an item at the beginning of the board agenda each month where we discuss the board goals, where the board discusses their goals. I can chime in as the superintendent president, but so working with my staff, we tie, so the board, for example, this year has 5 goals. So every item on the agenda is tied to a board goal. And so maybe goal 1 may this month have 15 items. I say every item, almost every item. So that we then create a matrix, or probably a matrix that shows here's the board goal, here's the item on the agenda, and then here's an explanation of why this applies to that board goal. We make enough copies so all those attending the board meeting, all the public, everyone has a copy in their hand. When we get to that item on the agenda, we pull it up and we go through it and usually just point out highlights because we can't cover every item every month. And then just see what the board may be interested in discussing that month, but showing their progress toward reaching their goals every month.
I think the CEO and I currently have a board, and I just left a meeting with several of my board members, and it was talking about ethics and board functioning and Brown Act, and I think it's critically important for board members and their CEOs to attend some of these difficult discussions, and they're complex. We have a very complex code laws in the state of California. Board members sometimes come on and they are not familiar with all of those laws, and the education process is critical so people know how we function best in a policy governance environment. So these meetings to me are essential, and the CEO needs to be with the board members in these meetings as much as possible.